What if your world, the one you were born into, was ripped away in an instant? What if the wind in the trees, the taste of fresh berries, the cool shade of mountain pines, was all you ever knew, and then suddenly it was gone? No more forest. No more freedom. Only chains, a concrete floor, and the sound of strangers profiting from your pain. This is the story of one wild bear who lived that nightmare, and the incredible humans who refused to let her die in silence. From the darkest depths of captivity, to the healing arms of a wildlife sanctuary. This journey is about more than survival. It's about hope. It's about justice. And it's about the power of kindness in a world that often forgets the wild things. A single spotlight flickered in the corner of a damp, crumbling warehouse. The room was silent, until the metallic clink of a rusted chain echoed. In a cage barely wider than her body, a bear lay motionless. Her fur was dirty and matted, worn thin from years of rubbing against iron bars. A heavy collar, cracked with rust, pressed into her neck. Her left eye was swollen shut from an old injury. Her paw, once meant to dig through forest soil, was infected and bound with a piece of wire. She didn't move. She didn't growl. She didn't even blink. Because in captivity, bears learn one thing above all: silence means survival. This was Nadiya. They hadn't given her a name, not the poachers, not the smugglers who sold her to back-alley animal shows. But the team who found her would later name her Nadiya, hope in Ukrainian. Because even after all she had lost, she was still alive. Barely. Every year, tens of thousands of bears are hunted, captured, or killed for profit. They are used in illegal circuses, mutilated for their bile, trapped and tortured for fake medicine, caged as exotic pets, slaughtered for rugs, paws, or trophies. Some are taken as cubs when their mothers are shot. Others are baited with meat and fall into steel jaw traps. Bears like Nadiya are especially valuable, large, rare, and trainable under duress. She had been caught in the mountains of Eastern Europe, likely drugged, muzzled, and hidden in a truck under crates of livestock. By the time authorities learned of her existence, she had already vanished into the cruel world of underground animal trade. It was a blurry video that saved her life. A tourist in a forgotten town filmed a bear being forced to perform behind a dilapidated circus tent. The bear limped as a man cracked a whip nearby. Her body flinched, but her eyes remained blank. The video went viral. Within days, it reached Wild Horizons, a non-profit wildlife rescue group that operated across Europe and Asia. They had rescued wolves, lynx, eagles, but bears? Bears were personal. Dr. Ana Petrovich, a Serbian-born wildlife vet, watched the footage 3 times. "She's not broken," she whispered. "She's still alive in there. We're going to get her out." Ana assembled a small rescue unit. Her vet assistant Luka, a logistics expert named Tomasz, 2 local informants who knew the smuggling routes, and a quiet Polish ex-ranger named Marek, who had once freed 6 bears from a bile farm in China. They tracked the circus trailer across 2 countries, waiting for the right moment. It took 12 days of waiting, tailing, bribing, and planning. And then finally, on a rainy morning outside a rotting barn near the Romanian border, the team struck. Marek kicked the door in. Tomasz disabled the truck's ignition. Ana darted the handler as he reached for his shotgun. And inside, in the farthest corner of the barn, they found her. Nadiya didn't flinch when the cage door opened. She didn't even look up. Luka knelt beside her. "She's breathing, barely. We have to move fast." They loaded her into a specially designed animal rescue crate. For the first time in years, she felt gentle hands instead of fists. As the truck pulled away, the rain washed the dirt from her fur. She blinked once, and slept for 20 straight hours. The rescue van hummed gently through the Carpathian backroads, its tires cutting through puddles left behind by the rain. Inside the climate-controlled trailer, Nadiya lay in a thick bed of straw, her body gently rising and falling with sedation. For the first time in 2 years, she wasn't surrounded by shouting men, bright lights, or the smell of waste. Instead, she was surrounded by quiet and concern. Ana sat close by, constantly monitoring her vitals. Every hour, she whispered updates to Luka. "Temperature's holding, swelling's gone down slightly, she's not in shock." But it wasn't just her body that needed healing. "She hasn't made a sound," Luka said. "She doesn't trust her voice anymore, Anna replied quietly. That takes longer to come back. The sanctuary was nearly 900 kilometers away, nestled deep in the forests of Slovenia, far from cities, roads, or any trace of the world that had caged Nadiya. They drove in shifts for 2 days, stopping only to hydrate her and check vitals. Occasionally, Nadiya stirred, not from pain, but from unfamiliar sounds, leaves rustling instead of chains dragging, birds instead of jeering crowds. By the end of day 2, her eyes finally opened. For a moment, she simply stared at the trees flashing past the window slats. And then, slowly, she raised her nose and sniffed. It was pine. It was forest. It was home. Wild Horizons Sanctuary wasn't a zoo. It wasn't a tourist trap. It was a reclamation of wildness. Spanning hundreds of acres of protected woodland, it was home to bears who had survived poachers, fire, traps, and torture. Some would never return to the wild. But here, they would live without fear. As the gates opened, the rescue van eased into the shaded unloading zone. A team of caretakers and behavioral specialists waited, prepared for aggression or trauma. But Nadiya didn't thrash. She didn't roar. She stepped onto the soil slowly, blinking at the sunlight. And then, she sniffed the wind. It was the first time she'd stood on Earth in 768 days. As soon as she entered the medical enclosure, Anna went to work. Her injuries were severe. A broken toe that had never healed properly. Multiple infections from untreated wounds. Malnutrition, dehydration, and early signs of liver damage. A chain scar so deep around her neck it was nearly embedded. But through it all, Nadiya didn't bite, didn't flinch, didn't resist. She trusts you, Marek said, watching. No, Anna whispered, stroking the bear's shoulder as she lay sedated. She doesn't fear us. That's not the same as trust. They cleaned her wounds, gave her 4 fluids, and removed the collar. When she woke up, she licked the water bowl beside her. And for the first time since she was a cub, she was unchained. That night, Nadiya was placed in an open-air recovery pen, half sheltered, half open, with fresh grass, a small pool and soft bedding. The sky above her stretched wide, filled with stars. She didn't sleep at first. She just stared at the trees, her ears twitching at every sound. A branch cracked in the distance. An owl called. Then far off, another bear groaned, a real bear, not broken, not trained. A free one. Nadiya closed her eyes. She didn't know where she was. But it was not a cage. And that was enough. Morning light crept through the treetops of the sanctuary, casting golden beams across the forest floor. Birds chirped, the wind rustled gently, and for the first time in years, Nadiya awoke without chains. She stirred slowly on her straw bedding. Her body ached, but the pain was different, not the dull sting of untreated wounds, but the soreness of muscles beginning to heal. When Anna arrived with Luca, she was already sitting up. She's alert today, Luca said. Let's take it slow, Anna whispered. Today's not about progress. It's about peace. They left the gate open, just wide enough for Nadiya to see the trees beyond her recovery enclosure. She didn't move toward them. But her ears twitched. And she didn't turn away. Over the next few weeks, Nadiya remained under close medical care. But outside the clinic, the sanctuary's true magic unfolded. Other bears, all survivors of cruelty, roamed large forest paddocks, free to dig, climb, fish, and explore. Each had a name, a past, and a path to recovery. Bruno, rescued from a bile farm, now loved soaking in ponds. Zora, once used in street shows, had a limp but ruled her patch of forest like a queen. Ivan, blinded in one eye, still climbed trees for apples. Their lives weren't perfect. But they were theirs again. And soon, Nadiya would join them. At first, she didn't know how. The trauma had rewired her instincts. When placed in a larger transition enclosure filled with grass and logs, she didn't explore. She paced in a circle, the same tight loop she'd walked in her cage for 2 years. When Anna tossed her fresh trout, she didn't eat it. She pawed at it, confused, then left it untouched. But then one morning, something changed. She saw Bruno through the fence. He was napping in the sun, belly up, snoring loudly. Nadiya watched him for a full 10 minutes. Then she lay down too. And for the first time she rested, not out of exhaustion, but out of comfort. Weeks later, the The sanctuary opened a private pool enclosure for her, a shallow pond where she could wade without fear. It was the first time water had touched her body without a handler's whip nearby. She hesitated, sniffed, dipped one paw in. Then slowly, she stepped in completely. The staff watched from afar as she lowered herself into the water and closed her eyes. A ripple passed through the pool. Nadiya tilted her head back and let out a sound, not a roar, not a growl, just a soft, rumbling huff. It was the sound of something remembered. It was the sound of being a bear. At the 2-month mark, Anna and the sanctuary team made a bold decision. It was time. Time to open the gate to the main forest enclosure. Unlike her medical pen or the transitional yard, this space was vast, over 10 acres of protected woodland, creeks, and hidden dens. No fences within. No barriers. Just forest. She might not go far at first, said Tomasz. That's okay. She might not go at all, Anna added, placing her hand gently on the gate lever. But it needs to be her choice. With a soft groan, the gate creaked open. Nadiya sat in her yard, blinking slowly. She looked at the forest path. She looked at Anna. Then back to the path. The sun warmed her back. A breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. And slowly, with cautious steps, she walked through. The sanctuary's tracking system followed Nadiya's movements with care. Her collar, now a soft, GPS-tagged medical band, pinged her progress through the trees. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She moved thoughtfully, stopping to sniff, to dig, to listen. Every step was a memory unlocking itself. She swatted at a bee. She pawed at tree bark, stripping it with surprising ease. And then, later that afternoon, she did something Anna would never forget. She climbed. Not high, and not quickly. But with deliberate effort, she scaled a small pine until the forest breeze brushed her ears. She's not broken, Anna whispered through the radio. She never was. Introducing traumatized animals to others is never simple. But in time, Nadiya encountered Bruno again, the big lazy bear with a gentle soul. At first, she kept her distance. She circled. She grunted. But Bruno didn't challenge her. He flopped onto his back, tossed a pine cone in the air, and waited. The next day, they napped 20 feet apart. The next week, they shared a pond, splashing, wading, floating. They weren't mates. They weren't cubs. They were survivors. And now they were friends. That night, under a full Slovenian moon, Nadiya did something she hadn't done in years. She stood on her hind legs, stretched her neck to the stars, and let out a long rumbling vocalization, not of pain but of presence. The other bears heard it. So did Anna. She's calling to the forest, Marek said beside her. She's telling it, she's home. Nadiya's story began with silence, the silence of chains, of cages, of forgotten cries. But now, it had become a roar. Wild Horizons released her full story on their YouTube channel, from the grainy video that sparked her rescue to footage of her first free steps under the trees. The world responded. Speech balloon, I cried watching her touch the forest floor. Speech balloon, you gave her back her life. Thank you. Speech balloon, I had no idea bears were still being poached like this. The video went viral. News outlets shared it. Donations poured in. And the sanctuary used every penny to upgrade enclosures, launch new investigations, and rescue more bears. Nadiya was one bear. But there are thousands more. Still trapped in bile farms across Southeast Asia. Caged in basements as exotic pets in Eastern Europe. Forced to perform in roadside circuses from Pakistan to Ukraine. Starving in deforested mountain ranges with nowhere left to go. Poaching isn't just a crime, it's a global emergency. And sanctuaries like Wild Horizons aren't just giving animals space, they're giving them their stories back. If Nadiya's journey moved you, you can help write the next one. White heavy checkmark donate to certified wildlife sanctuaries. Even small amounts can feed and care for a rescued bear for days. White heavy checkmark educate others, especially about bile farms, trophy hunting, and illegal animal tourism. White heavy checkmark reports suspicious roadside animal shows, Instagram bear selfies, or marketplaces selling exotic pets. White heavy checkmark share real rescue stories to drown out misinformation. White heavy checkmark volunteer or support organizations like Wild Horizons, World Animal Protection, and Free the Bears. You're not just watching her story, you're becoming part of it. 6 months after her rescue, Anna walked deep into the sanctuary one misty morning. She didn't need a radio, she knew where to go. She found Nadiya reclining beside a sun-warmed rock, a gnawed log at her side, and a wildflower tucked into the ground nearby, as if placed there softly. She looked peaceful. And then, as Anna approached quietly, Nadiya turned. She didn't flinch. She didn't growl. She stared directly into Anna's eyes. And blinked, slow, calm, knowing. It wasn't gratitude in that gaze. It wasn't human emotion. It was something older. Deeper. It was wildness reclaimed. Spring arrived early at the sanctuary. The forest bloomed with new life, birds nested, creeks gurgled, and young saplings reached for the sun. But no scene was more moving than the sight of Nadiya lying in a patch of tall golden grass, eyes half closed, paws crossed, basking in a morning sunbeam. Children on a guided tour stood quietly with their ranger, watching her from afar. No fences. No chains. Just respectful distance and wide eyes. One little girl tugged her father's sleeve. "Why does she look so happy?" The father paused. "Because she's finally where she was always meant to be." Nadiya would never return to the wild completely. Her injuries, both physical and psychological, made full release impossible. But that didn't mean her life wasn't wild. At the sanctuary she had forests to roam, trees to climb, ponds to swim, friends to sleep beside, and space to be a bear, not a prisoner. She had become an ambassador, a living reminder of what poaching destroys, and what compassion can restore. Photos of Nadiya now hung in classrooms, newsrooms, and veterinary colleges around the world. She had been featured in documentaries, conservation campaigns, and even a postage stamp issued in her home country. But the image that moved people most wasn't dramatic. It was simple. Nadiya, curled peacefully on her side, holding a branch between her paws like a child hugging a teddy bear. No cages. No chains. Just freedom. Her story inspired change. A new legislation was proposed in 3 countries to crack down on illegal wildlife circuses. Sanctuaries reported record-high donations. Volunteers began signing up faster than ever before. 2 more bear rescues were directly funded by viewers who had seen Nadiya's video. Nadiya, the silent bear in the back of a rusted trailer, had become a roaring symbol of resilience. A year after her rescue, Anna returned to the sanctuary for a quiet visit. She didn't wear her vet uniform this time, just jeans, boots, and a scarf. No clipboard. No cameras. She walked alone to the far forest enclosure where Nadiya now lived. She called softly from the trees. And from the thicket, Nadiya emerged, older, stronger, her fur thicker, her eyes bright. She walked close. Anna didn't speak. She simply sat. And for a long time, they shared the forest breeze in silence. Then, Nadiya did something she had never done before. She stepped forward, and gently pressed her forehead against Anna's shoulder. Not for long. Just a second. And then she turned, and disappeared into the woods. We cannot undo the pain she lived through. But we can choose what happens next, for her, and for all the wild creatures still waiting in the dark. Be their voice. Be their chance. Be their hope.